Hey, how's it going? Tim Brown. I'm going to have Connor on here in a second. We're going to be talking about the 7 deadly sins of running a roofing business. And Connor, before he gets on here, I just want to say a few words about him, that he is a legit entrepreneur. First of all, he has run a roofing business, and he also is a person that doesn't pull punches. You know, he's a real operator, and he's somebody who kind of says it how it is, and he goes into roofing businesses a lot and talks to them about, you know, what they could be doing better. He looks at what they've got going on, he learns from them, and any of these guys like him, Adam Sand, Dimitri, people that go in and really hang out with roofing companies a lot, like they're at a bunch of different roofing companies, I always love to hear what they have to say. So I'm gonna get Connor on right now. Here he goes, coming in here. Yo, what's up, Ty? Good to see ya. It is gorgeous here in Minneapolis. It's like 80 degrees. I'm loving it.
What's up,
brother?
All right,
How
man.
are you?
Digging it. Brought you into the podcast studio that's not finished yet. So
You're looking pro. The last time I had you on, remember when I had you on a podcast and you're like in your garage and you had like a sheet up?
Yeah, because I had my the area I'm in right now, it caught on fire, and so I had to have like a whole restoration ordeal done. But yeah, I remember that, dude. That was wild.
All right, brother. Well, just gave you an introduction. I was talking about how much you're going into people's roofing businesses and you get to observe a lot. We're going to talk about the 7 deadly sins of running a roofing business. The first one is not truly knowing your people. So we're going to go through these kind of quick. How is not knowing your people deadly for your company, and how can you address that with systems that you have in the Roofing Academy, the Roofing Success System has?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that when you say like knowing your people, like that sounds a little bit sounds like you're missing something there. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, what that means is like being able to use the tools that are available to you. So the personality assessment that are available inside of what we use at the Roofing Academy. There's tons out there, but I mean, we use PSI tools as well as like 16 personalities, and we use some of that visionary integrator stuff too. But I think like first and foremost, just really having a comprehensive outlook of your employee or employees and knowing where they would best be fit inside your company.
What is PSI? What is that?
So it stands for personality system something another, but it's made by CRG, which is actually gentleman that spoke at the Roofing Success Summit. He Ken Keys. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he runs that company, and it's essentially just a full spectrum. It does individual personality assessments, it does team chemistry analysis, it does all sorts of different things. So
why is this deadly though? I mean, I don't need to know my people that much, right?
Yeah, well, so if you think that folks are going to work inside you, well, first off, using the personality tools during your recruiting and hiring processes is a huge ordeal, right? Because if you're not using those tools inside of that space, you're basically just taking guesses on who people say that they are, right? So the personality assessments are very important for you to be able to kind of get a full understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of that individual. And so using it in hiring and onboarding and recruiting processes is really important. But then just finding, getting the talent in the right places, right? I think that like in general, you have a lot of people.
Number 2, I'll just say my number 2 deadly sin is not having people in the right positions.
Yep. So that's different, right? So being able, it ties into it, but it's different in that you need to understand people being in the right seats, understanding that they need to be in the right positions. And so what does that mean? That means that they need to be in a very clearly defined role, because there's a lot of distractions going on. And I know that's probably one of the other deadly sins, but a lot of things that go on inside a day-to-day roofing company. And when folks don't really understand where they're supposed to be operating inside their company with clearly defined roles, it causes a lot of problems. Yeah. So that's where
you said like a lot of people have real basic, like job descriptions, but what you want is like a detailed list of every
Yes,
exact responsibility that this person has.
absolutely.
So they're not, if they're up here, they have 7 key tasks slash responsibilities, and they're off here. That might be a little bit of a structure problem. And this may not make sense for people that are like 3 people in your company yet, but it definitely makes sense once you go past a certain point, because what got you here won't get you there, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah, I think that
Number 3 is too many distractions and lack of priority. So the number 3 deadly sin is too many distractions and lack of priority. How does lack of priority get deadly?
you got a lot of things that you can do inside of your roofing company, right? You can niche in a certain space. You can hire a certain amount of people, when to hire, who to hire, how to hire. There's a lot of questions around just like prioritization in general, understanding like what should we really be focused on that's going to take the company to the next level, right? So that's like those are the big things that are important for you to identify. You need to identify 5 to 7 things company wide, and then really get ironed out with your own individual items as well. But prioritization is a big issue inside of companies.
Whenever I talk to smart consultants like you, I always get challenged, because I know I'm doing these things. I come up with a new priority like in the middle of a quarter, and just suddenly just start spraying it everywhere, all over our whole team. What's wrong with just kind of running in with a new priority and acting like it's an emergency?
Well, certainly there's times for that, but I think it's as you become a more seasoned audit in your business, then you can judge whether or not, or you have other people that can judge whether or not the priority or something that you think is a priority is really a priority, right? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Tim.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, the thing is that it's not that it's not, there aren't exceptions to the rule, but I think when we start talking about what's really going to move the business forward, truthfully, there's really only about a handful of items. And even when I meet with our clients, it's like we'll get it down to 7 from our 80 different things that are on the board. But at the end of the day, it's you really could boil down things to 3 to 5 most of the time, like 3 to 5 really critical things. Like, and I'm one of those types of people that likes to have a lot of things really ironed out and very detailed, but it's also something that I think you have to balance with, because you got to make sure you're always moving the needle on what's really most important. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know number 4 on the 7 deadly sins is your favorite, which is not knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
That's a deadly sin. How does that kill businesses?
Deadly, man. You're just playing. You're shooting a stray bullet in a dark hallway, man. You just don't know what you're really aiming at. You don't really know how to look at your business, how to see your business, and so I think that the reason I'm so passionate about that, as a guy that's more CFO level caliber individual and coming into this space, is like this space is really lacking that level of expertise inside of a roofing company, and not because I'm talking shit on people. It's just the reality of like most people don't really understand how they should be evaluating data and looking at their numbers inside the business. It's not just about the APAR. It's not just about understanding your cash on hand. It's like there's a whole set of data lists I would kind of call the fundamentals of your data to understand what you really should be tracking inside your company, and that ties into sales, marketing, production, finance. I mean, it's all of it. You know what I mean?
So what are some of the top 3 numbers? I know we're not going to iron out people's numbers in this live, but what are some of the top 3 numbers that you look at right when you kind of visit or check out a company's numbers? And how does TRA and the Roofing Success System, how does that all help them? So top 3 numbers, and how does your guys' system help them?
I got to give you 6 numbers because there's 6 of them.
Okay,
those are our core 6. Okay.
I'm writing notes. If I had a pen, I'd be writing notes.
Cash on hand, deposits on hand, AR, AP, gross profit margins, and you have to understand those. We have tools to be able to understand those broken down on a residential commercial repair basis, and then understanding your gross burn rate, or what's your consistent keep the lights on cost per month, right? And so those are the 6 things that you really need to know when you first start. I forgot your other question though. What was the other question you had?
It's basically, how does TRA help people iron these things out, so that if somebody wanted to contact you guys, how do you guys help people understand their numbers?
Well, I mean, take, you know, not trying to be the guy. It's like, it's been something that I've been working on for years and years, but it has, in terms of being able to create a system and a set of tools to be able to help people do that. So an actual, it's a document that you work through, and I'm hoping to be able to transition it into a tech tool at some point soon. But it's called the RSS Financial Plan. So that's one of the big things that really helps you understand it. And there's nothing else like it in the industry, man. I've put hours and hours. I mean, I can't even count the amount of hours, and it's formula to the max. And I think that, like, anybody that sees it, their mind's just exploding, because it's just got so much stuff in there. But that's one thing. And then the other thing is going to be the bookkeeping services. You know, like when we talk about like being able to make sure that you understand your, like, having your books and having that stuff in order is like super important. Then basically we're coming in and working with you that way, and getting you connected to people that can help you with that, and then being able to have someone like myself come in and be able to do the CFO work with you, to actually teach you how to be like a CFO, C-suite, you know.
I love that. And bookkeeping and CFO are different.
Way different, bro. And the same as a CPA and a bookkeeper. A lot of your best CPAs, I'm not trying to talk shade on those CPAs out there, but they're usually better at tax strategy than they are keeping them books clean. So be careful with who you let into your business, and very much take that seriously, because I think most people, my number one thing that I say about anything books or you know, CPA related, is that it always becomes the afterthought for a lot of startup entrepreneurs. It needs to be the forethought. It needs to be the first thing that you're thinking about, and getting yourself set up well, because if that balance sheet starts off incorrectly, it'll always be incorrect until you get manual entries done. So it's important that you make sure you're setting that system up, and, you know, properly out the gates. So,
All right, number 5, lack of consistent problem solving. Why is this one potentially deadly for a roofing company?
yeah, I think we get going just in a million miles an hour in a million different directions. And I think that if you do not make time to work on your business, and more specifically, take the time to actually have consistent standing meetings and in different types of formats, not just doing the EOS model of the leadership team meetings or the things that a lot of folks have probably heard about, but actually having like your quarterly town halls, one-on-ones with your team, making sure that you're doing making sure
Sorry
that
if
you're
the noise.
doing your annual planning.
Sorry about the wind. I apologize. It's windy in Minnesota today.
You're good, bro. You're good. But anyway, yeah, making sure you have all those different those systems and meetings and stuff in place to help you, you know, succeed. I mean, I think that there's just too much time that we're not actually like getting in a room and actually figuring out how to work on our business. It's just, you're just in the thick of the daily grind, man. Like that's definitely one of the sins of companies I go into, is that they just struggle to be able to pull themselves out of the things they got going on in the day to day, you know.
And the day-to-day crowds you more if you don't have meetings, I've noticed.
Absolutely.
The meetings are intended to clean up all that nonsense. So you, like, some people think they don't have time for meetings, and it's like, hey, you had 5 fires this week with your production manager that could have been addressed in one meeting, could have been put on some kind of list and then addressed later. You don't have to always be putting out fires, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's a time to reset. And I think if you don't do a weekly standing meeting, at least one, I think you're hurting yourself significantly just on that. But I think that, like, the quarterly and annual time frames to be able to actually like sit down and recalibrate, it's a breath of fresh air. And if you don't even just do those, not let alone one-on-ones and town halls and, you know, executive meetings and all these different things, it's you know, all those other things, you know, are cherries on top. But you got to have consistency with something. So,
All right, number 6, no task or calendar management,
yeah.
or lack of technology problems.
Yeah, man.
5
Yeah.
to 1. We only
Yeah.
7.
I Go ahead. What were you saying?
We were going for 7, so we kind of consolidated tech and
Well, it's all
task and calendar.
it's all related. I think that, like, if you don't understand how to use the technology that's available to you by your own little Google Calendar that sits on your phone, or your iCalendar, or whatever it is that you use, as well as like knowing how to literally just keep track of, you know, your task management, and having that, whether you're using like other tools out there for task management, or you're just literally using pen and paper or on your phone. I think that so many people, they don't control their time and they don't control their productivity. So they just, go, 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 go. And then they have frustrated staff, or we just got back from Pittsburgh from a company. Love them to death. They're awesome people. But one of the things we talked about was like their employees don't even know when like they're in the office, when they're going to be out in the field, when they're going to be doing things, whatever. And because they don't even manage calendars, they don't know, who's doing what and when, and there's like virtually no accountability for task management. So it's like, that's a huge piece, man. And the technology that's available to us, it's like, we're in the golden era, dude. There's so many things that you could use that can help you with that,
You don't want to plug a tool or two options or something in here for task management stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a great relationship with Mark Abbott, CEO of 90.io, and like, I use 90. I've been in the process of working on. We've already been customizing a lot of that software on our end. I'm a part of the R&D team with them. So I mean, I'm
love
on 90.io. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you can use Asana, you can use Monday, you can use, I mean, for the task management / prioritization tools. I just think that 90 is more comprehensive, and there's a lot more things that are coming out in the future that I'm excited about. So, but yeah, that's a good tool.
Awesome. And lastly, the seventh deadly sin of running a roofing business. These are all from Connor, by the way. I'm not like an authority on your sins, okay? I don't know anything about your sins. I'm just a meme guy out here, okay? And an SEO guy. But not having a clear and defined vision. Why is this something that's dangerous for roofing companies, to not have a clear and defined vision?
Well, I think first thing I always tell people is not everybody's intended to be $100 million roofing company, right? And I think that everybody just runs and guns as if they're going to shoot for that. There's a good portion of folks, at least, that do that. So I think that not having a clear vision, and that's also another thing that's kind of related to the EOS world, is like not understanding your short-term, mid-term, long-term, goals with your company. If you don't have a clear vision, not only do you not know where you're going, you physically, you the owner or you the entrepreneur, but also your team they don't have anything to lean on. They have nothing. They have no idea where they're going, what they're doing. They don't know what the end game is for the company, right? They don't really. And so a lot of that's like even just tied into as simple as that, knowing what your revenue targets are, your profit targets are, understanding like how many roofs you're trying to build this year. Are you trying to get into are you trying to open a new market? Are you trying to, I mean, like all those things, like instead of just running and gunning, you should have like a very clear, a very clear plan of what you're trying to create. You know what I mean? We're creators, so.
I love it. And my thing is always this. I always have some kind of like next few years plan personally, but I never like know my end goal, Like it's tough, man. Like, yeah, if there was a really crazy valuation in 10 years, our competitor just sold the Job Nimbus. And I think they got a really good multiple. So that kind of
Yeah,
throws a little,
makes you think about things a little bit more, Timmy.
Yeah. Like niche agencies get good multiples. Roofing companies are starting to get good multiples in certain cases. So it does throw a question mark out there. So it's hard to know what the long-term vision is. I know next year what I want my revenue to target to be. So really, how do you get there, man? Like, you probably had people soul search with you. So how do you get there on that clear vision?
Time and taking the information that you're trying to, like, for me, it's starting with what's the profit target? What are we trying to actually do with our company, right? And so, and not that it's all about that, but that relates to what I can do for my team, what I can do for myself, what I can do for my company into the future years, or whatever else, right? And so I always start there, and then reverse engineer what that revenue target ends up becoming. And then at that point, it's basically okay, I know that this is what this year's goal is. What does it need to look like 3 years from now? What does it need to look like? Whatever the exit strategy is, if yours is to sell the company, if it's to pass it off, whatever the case is, like, I think you should always understand, like, that there's two decisions to be made. And this is super critical. Whenever you are in a day-to-day roofing company, or you have had success and you are in the viability phase, which means you have processes and systems, you have cash in the bank, things are going good. Okay, there's a decision to make, and it's two options. I think I said two decisions, but there's a decision to make and two options. The option is to find the sweet spot, which is where revenue and your operating, your expenses, which includes cost of goods sold, starts to separate. And if that happens, then you start increasing your profitability. And so that where that occurs, I always call it the sweet spot. So you either stay in the sweet spot and find the sweet spot and stay there, or you make the actual decision to scale the company. And that is basically starting over again, right? And so whenever you are in a position where you're actually going to be going and scaling your business, a lot of that stability is going to go away if you actually make a valiant effort to actually aggressively scale. And so
Eric Richardson was watching. I think he is one of those people. He has a very solid roofing company. He's gotten to like 6-7 million, and he's decided, I think he's got a sweet spot. I mean, he likes his work balance, and I don't think he's not trying to do this crazy aggressive sales organization thing. So I think just noting that's a real option. It's not everyone has to scale.
Yep. So those are the two decisions, and then at the end of it all, you need to know what you're going to do with your company. Unless you're planning on just letting it dissolve one day, which I don't think anybody should have those plans unless you're not committed to what you're doing as an entrepreneur. You need to have a plan of what you're trying to create as you exit, right? So if you're trying to,
it doesn't have to be that philosophical. You come with a profit number that's reasonable and aggressive, and you kind of like set your stuff around that.
Yes, absolutely. And I got systems to help you with that, Tim, if you want to know.
Yeah, Eric Richardson says cuts into surf time. I like that. And
yeah,
I think people should check you out if they're trying to get their numbers down, if they want to either enter that sweet spot or they want to try to scale. If you had to guess, what percentage of roofing companies should choose the scale option?
Less than 10.
I think just being real about the fact, sweet spot is a real thing.
Yeah.
And with, however many million, I don't want to say a number, but like, it's certainly not a dumb decision. Like, there's a lot of people that run really insanely cool roofing companies that didn't try to go to 10 or 20, let alone 100, right?
Yeah. There's two different kinds of companies, man. We work with both of them. $50 million company doing $2.5 million EBITDA as a commercial service company, and then a $14 million company that made $4 million last year. So pick what you want. You know what I mean? And that's just real. That's real stuff. You know what I mean? And that's thanks, Eric. Appreciate that, brother. But yeah, I mean that's.
I'll read this out loud because this will also go on YouTube. Connor Rodich is an absolute beast when it comes to organizing your shit. Now, who can beat that testimonial right there below? Connor, what's the .com if people want to check you guys out?
The roofingacademy.com is the Roofing Academy webpage. You can check us out on Facebook too. You can also, I always tell people you can check out me at obviously finding me on social media and connorrodich.com. I got my own website too. So you can connect me a multitude of different ways. But yeah, feel free to reach out. I love to connect with people.
Hit them up, and I really appreciate your time today, Connor. I know you were kind of running home there to do this. I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk again. Okay?
Yeah, I love it, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye.
See you. Bye.